Hey, I'm a mindset coach, a life coach, a life on life's terms coach, and I had something playing on here and went live, and I had done all of my processing, all of my programming, all of my work in the description, and then I go live and that other background thing was playing. So pardon me for being a few minutes late. I apologize, and I'll have to put the description in when I complete this video. So anyway, if you don't know who I am, I'm getting myself together. My name is Stacy, and I'm a mindset coach, and this is Grinch. This is the Grinch fan club, kind of like. So we're here this morning. We're going to be talking about the language of guilt manipulation. The language of guilt manipulation, and that's what we've talked about Monday night. We talked about earned guilt and unearned guilt. To know which is the difference, to know if you need to set a boundary or if you need to make an amends. So we talked about that on Monday. So if you didn't get to see that, I hope you'll join in, because a lot of times we have guilty feelings, and some feelings we're not, it's just a feeling. We're not actually guilty. And we haven't learned how to process, to determine whether we do need to make that amends, because we're human beings. We make mistakes, and we might actually owe an amends and a change of behavior. That's what an amends is. Or if we're, unearned guilt, we need to learn how to set boundaries. Boundaries, when I talk about boundaries, I talk about setting them with ourselves first, and then we set them with others, because then we can be comfortable with setting those boundaries, because when they come from a place of love, when you're setting a boundary, a lot of people think that when they cut it up to here, I'm going to set boundaries, and they come off as, demanding rather than requesting. And none of us like to be demanded of. So I'm going to go ahead and get started today on the follow-up part. We're talking about the language. How do you know if you're being emotionally manipulated? So we're talking about also, some people learned how to, relationship strategies, relational strategies. So we're going to talk about that this morning, so, if you constantly apologize, explain yourself, or feel responsible for everyone else's feelings, then maybe that's a guilt manipulation. And how do you know the difference? Good morning, Brianya. Is it Brianya Higna? So anyway, you may be experiencing guilt manipulation. I'm good, thank you. So we're going to talk about that. This is part 2. And then Friday, we'll follow up with a kind of closure, and then we do a story on Sunday, okay? So I've got my notes here so that I can, good morning, Logan. Thank you. Thank you for joining this morning. I've got my notes so that I can look at y'all's amazing comments, because I appreciate your participation in this. So thank you so much. Brunya, I like that. Brunya, thank you. Thank you for joining this morning. I like that. Good morning, beautiful mama. So I've got my notes here because I want to give y'all the most valuable information in a short amount of time, because I know your time is valuable. So thank you so much. Logan, what would you like to ask me? So we're going to look at the hidden signs of emotional manipulation this morning. It's Norwegian. It's very pretty. I like that. I follow somebody on YouTube that their name is Branya. So that's really cool. Good morning, Robbie. I'm glad you didn't miss it. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and get started, because I need to finish no later than 10:15. Okay. So I want to, make the most of your time. Thank you so much, Branya. I do appreciate that. Thank you for being here. And I hope that this resonates with you. And, if you all feel that this may help somebody else, because I know a lot of people feel guilt and manipulation, and it turns into what? Obligation. So we can get off of that cycle. So I've got my notes because I want to see your comments. So thank you so much. Logan, I have a very abusive and toxic family. What to do? Well, Logan, if you can do coaching, if you can afford coaching and counseling, I am a Texan. I am. I'm living down here right now near beautiful Cancun. So I'm down here in Mexico, but I am a Texan. It kind of tells in my accent, doesn't it? I wouldn't call myself a healer, because you are a healer. I work as a facilitator. I work as a catalyst, but I don't title myself as a healer. Thank you, though, for thinking that, because that's an amazing compliment. I do Reiki. I do have some different holistic skills that I use in my coaching sessions and counseling because I just celebrated 29 years clean and sober. So I did not use drugs to work on healing my mental and emotional state. I had to actually do the inner work, and this is what I try to help people with. I went through DV and it almost oh my gosh. Did you get counseling or coaching, Branya? Because that's hard. That is hard. And living in that toxicity and that kind of thing, it affects our body. That affected your body. That affects your central nervous system. I hate that you had to go through that. That's hard. So sometimes we want to make sure that these things don't happen again, right? When we have DV or we have a toxic family. I know that I shared the other week that it was so toxic in the house that I lived in at one time that the plants were dying. That toxicity is in the energy and in the airs. Mr. Simon Baird, it's good to see you this morning. Once you learn to recognize the language of guilt, you can never unhear it. Essential reading for anyone working on setting better boundaries. Thank you so much, Mr. Simon Baird. I do appreciate you. Brenya, yes, but I ended up in juvie because I fought back and my abuser won. Oh, I hate that. Because things do get twisted and the guilt manipulation. Good morning, Pam. It's so good to see you here. It's domestic, and then you can only guess the other part of it, Robbie. So anyway, we're going to talk about this, and I hope that this all will help you all this morning to be able to recognize if you are being emotionally manipulated. Hello, mother and daughter paper craft. So I'm going to get into this. I got my notes, but I'm looking at your comments too. I want to thank you again all for being here, and for you all who have subscribed. Thank you so much, Branya. I appreciate you. And so in this video, what you're going to learn today is the stages of guilt manipulation. You're going to learn healthy communication versus emotional pressure. Hello, Tony. You're going to learn how to recognize learned relational strategies. Branya, this was a few years ago. I'm 19 now and have been out for 10 months now. The only reason I got out early was because the truth came out. The truth will always come out. It always will. And I'm so glad you were able to hang in there. You have resilience. And you're going to be able to help other people who have struggled with that before. I have no doubt, because it is unfair. But life didn't tell us it's going to be fair all the time. So hopefully this, I know for a lot of us, I'm seeing hearts again. Is that you, Pammy? I see some hearts. Thank you for explaining that to Robbie, because I never know what we can say on here and not getting in trouble. So thank you for saying that, because I want to make sure that this video is able to get to those who it may help. So we're going to learn how to recognize relational strategies. That comes from them and others, So we're also going to learn how to stop taking responsibility for other people's emotions. We're also going to talk about the connection between boundaries and healthy self-esteem. So healing self-esteem, we're talking about that, and breaking free from guilt. So what we're going to talk about this morning, yes, that's you. I'm so glad they got the hearts back. I'm so glad. So y'all feel free to throw those hearts out there, if you want to. And again, thank you, Branya, for subscribing, and anyone else, if you think this is going to help. And I will show you my whole outfit at the end of this video. Y'all don't let me forget, okay? Thank you so much, Amy. Amy, no. So last time we talked about the difference between unearned guilt and earned guilt. Thank you so much, Branya. I appreciate that. Y'all welcome Branya in here. She has subscribed, and so I'm so glad that you're here. So earned guilt asks us to take responsibility and make amends and to grow. Sometimes we know when we did something that's not right. We're human beings. We're going to make mistakes. And when we make a mistake, just correcting the mistake, apologizing for the mistake we made, and then correcting it, not repeating it. I'm sorry. Sometimes it's just a blanket. And sometimes we're saying that when we didn't even earn the guilt. So this is to stop that language, as I've worked with many people who just apologize for everything, almost even breathing. And so we want to make sure that, Well, we're calling it relational strategies here because the people that have dealt with this type of thing, Esteban, it's very true. There are narcissists out there, but they there's these relationships that blend and they can be a catalyst for our growth. And that's what we're trying to promote. You did not see me in Starbucks yesterday morning. I was not in Starbucks yesterday morning, but thank you. I hope you'll stay in here. We're going to go stay on topic today so we don't talk about religion, politics, my age, my dating statuses, anything like that. Okay. So, earned guilt, like I said, tells you to take responsibility and make amends and grow. It's like, and people respect that. They really do. Um, Welcome, JQ Brunya. I'm a big advocate for mental health bullying and DV. I was able to create a community group for young people, young adults to come and talk confidently and have the chance to find help. I know you're going to help so many people. I know you are helping so many people. Thank you, Brunya, for sharing that. So if you have a platform or something you want to share on here in the comments, feel free so that anybody who joins may be able, a young person may be able to jump in there, because the sooner we can catch it, the better off we're going to be. Because some people just end up settling in that for so long. I know it is great helping others. That's what a catalyst for our growth is meant to do and be, is for us to help somebody else. There's also Manjuro Journey with Pam, if anyone has struggled with weight loss in here and is interested in making healthier changes in their life. Pam also has a group, and we share that, quite a bit. So, Branya, feel free to share if what you do too, because we uplift each other. We can only rise by lifting others. We can only, you know what I mean. Anyway, I want to stay on topic. So, unearned guilt asks us to recognize where we're carrying responsibilities that don't belong to us and establish healthy boundaries. So today I want to help you recognize something else that keeps many people trapped in the unearned guilt. Bernia is a guy? Okay. Well, same thing. Because there are guys that experience this. I followed the whole Johnny Depp thing, you know. So, yeah. Either way. Either way. Because, yeah, guys and girls get abused. So thank you, Robbie, for clearing that up. I apologize, Branya, for mixing it up. So the language of guilt manipulation. Before we begin, yes, Team Johnny. I got the cup, the mug, everything. So I was definitely Team Johnny, because abuse does happen on both ways. I don't have a platform because I haven't been able to set it up yet. My channel had kind of gotten taken down because I forgot to put trigger warnings when I shared stories with my group members. Okay. I hate to hear that. Team Deaf, yes. So yeah. It's all learning, right? It's all learning. So the language of guilt manipulation, is that many of the behaviors, many of the unearned guilt comes from those learned relational strategies, which may have been said like earlier, narcissist. If people don't know they're narcissists, they're going to accuse you of being a narcissist. You cannot confront somebody who has those behaviors. So we're talking about relational strategies, because the thing is whether you are the one or you're dealing with one, you have to learn these relational strategies. And oftentimes that's how people become one. So, maybe they grew up in a house. And so having compassion for those that have become one, although we don't need to subject ourselves to it, okay? It's because it was a catalyst for your strength, so that it doesn't mean we promote that or anything else. We are not. But we're not also going to stay a victim all of our life. We might have been a victim at one time, but we don't have to stay a victim. Hello, Freyo. So most people learn strategies growing up because they didn't know healthier ways to communicate. So some learn to please. Brenya would get their permission and change names to keep their identity anonymous, but YouTube didn't like that because of the lack of warning. It's hard to know what we can and cannot say on here, right? So some people learn to please, some learn to withdraw, some learn to criticize, and some learned guilt. Some learn to manipulate, and understanding these behaviors, where they come from, doesn't excuse them. So we're not excusing these behaviors. Hey, Rodolfo, well, I'll try to stay on focused and on topic. Thank you, Branya. Try to stay focused and on topic so that we can get through and everyone can get the most information in the shortest amount of time. How about that? So manipulation thrives in confusion. So if you grew up in confusion, there can be some manipulation. So one of my favorite sayings is this: manipulation thrives in confusion and self-esteem grows in clarity when we learn to be clear. So healthy relationships create clarity. Manipulation creates confusion. You may notice that some of you may have grown up in a fragmented family. Fragmentation means when you don't know, when there's so much uncertainty, and what we'll desire is security. So we learn these people-pleasing behaviors, and we learn these behaviors, these survival skills, just to get through and hope that we're not, rocking the boat, or we may walk on eggshells. So we learn these survival skills, which cause us really to play small. So when we get to grow through this healing process, we learn to breathe and live large. So it's about that expansion and contraction, and that's where the breath comes from. Good morning, King DeBag. I'm good. How are you? John London, it's good to see you this morning. Everyone, it's so good to see you all this morning. So we're going to talk about how most guilt manipulation doesn't begin with yelling. Sometimes it don't begin with yelling. It progresses, right? The guilt manipulation progresses. Just like if you're a survivor, you survived it because we didn't start off having to be, may have already had survival skills that we didn't recognize, but we got to put those skills to work. So most guilt manipulation doesn't begin with yelling. There's that grooming area in some cases. Most guilt manipulation, good. So most guilt manipulation begins very quietly. Someone has a need, a disappointment, an expectation, a hurt. But instead of communicating directly, they hope you'll just notice, right? They do the hints. I'd like, or wouldn't it be nice, or these kind of things, the hints. I used to do the hints too. So they hope you'll notice, and when you don't, the pressure begins. Here comes the pressure if they don't notice. Yes, John's here. John London and Rodolfo, guilt manipulation, my old friend. I know. Thank you, King DeBag, for listening. So here we go. Stage 1 is the hints. This is how you learn the language. That's what we're working on today. Is I guess it must be nice. Never mind. I thought you'd know. I shouldn't have to ask. Those aren't requests, y'all. Those are hints. They're hints. Sometimes the person genuinely doesn't know how to ask. And so sometimes they just fear rejection. Sometimes they grew up believing direct communication wasn't safe. And sometimes they're just hoping guilt will accomplish what honest communication won't, right? So stage 2, victim language. Now the language becomes heavier. It sounds like this. I never get what I want. We always do what you want. No one ever thinks about me. I guess my needs don't matter. After everything I've done for you, notice the words. Always, never, everything, no one. Absolute language often creates emotional pressure. Thank you for those hearts. So if you've experienced this, you know, we've heard this, right? So, but here's where discernment matters. Sometimes these statements are expressing genuine pain. Maybe they really have been settling, maybe they haven't known how to express their needs. Maybe they're discovering that the relationship isn't meeting important needs. So we don't automatically label it manipulation. Are they inviting a conversation, or are they trying to create guilt? These are the questions, right? I don't know if it's Kim, John London. We have Branya here. We have a new person in here that's, going to be a part of our group here and who has a lot of information and things to share too. And maybe Branya, maybe Pam. I'm so glad we got the hearts back. Yeah, started with manipulation of how you ate, food shaming, saying I'm eating too much because there was an obesity gene in my family because of the meds I'm on. I lose weight fast and gain it easy. Branya, I suggest you follow Pam if you want to, because Pam's amazing here and she has a lot of, she has struggled with weight too, and she has a lot of information about the workouts, the daily 50s to make life easy and just things to maintain and encouragement. So Don, good morning, darling. It's good to see you. Thank you, Carlos. And Robbie said he's the hearts. Thank you, Robbie. So, yes. I mean, don't gain it easy. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, I know. Isn't that great? The hearts are back. So, yeah. So we want to distinguish, right, with those statements that I just said. Are they inviting a conversation because they're probably hurt and don't know how to ask for what they want, or they're trying to create guilt, and maybe both because they didn't learn how to communicate. So this is why we're talking about relational, responses to these things. And so healthy communication seeks understanding and manipulation seeks compliance. I really don't have many thoughts on Argentina, Carlos. I have a friend that gets plastic surgery in Argentina. She's got a great plastic surgeon in Argentina, but I have not been there, so I don't know. I hear it's amazing. So stage 3 is emotional pressure. Thank you, Brenda. Stage 3 is emotional pressure. When hints don't work, the emotional pressure increases. So what's the emotional pressure look like? Sulking, the silent treatment, withdrawal, martyrdom, heavy sighs, acting hurt without saying why, making you chase them. The message becomes, if you loved me, you should know, and if you cared, I shouldn't have to tell you. See? So, immortal beloved, that's not on topic, Bronya. Sorry. No, you're fine. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And Robbie does too. So many people don't even realize that they're doing that. These are learned relational strategies that I'm talking about, is people don't really know how to ask for what they want. And I used to be like that too. I didn't know how to ask for what I wanted, so I had to learn how to ask for that. The topic is guilt manipulation. We're talking about guilt manipulation and how to learn how to spot it. Thank you so much, Branya. So many people, like I said, don't realize they're doing this. These are learned relational strategies, but regardless of how they developed, they're unhealthy. They're unhealthy. So stage 4 is emotional escalation. So sometimes the pressure becomes louder because, right, it begins to build up, right, Branya? So, Pam, are you in here? Can you, Midtown, I don't think wants to be on topic today. I can do it, but I'm trying to stay on topic. Stage 4 is emotional escalation. Sometimes the pressure becomes louder. The shouting, the criticism, the blaming, adult temper tantrums. You've ruined, this sounds like this when they use their words. You've ruined everything. I can't believe you're doing this. You should know better. At this point, the conversation is no longer about solving the problem. It's about controlling the emotional outcome. If you grew up carrying unearned guilt, your nervous system immediately wants to apologize, explain, fix, and comply. Not because you've done something wrong, but because your nervous system learned that compliance once kept you emotionally safe. Sometimes religion is a guilt manipulation. I do agree with that. Yeah, thank you, Branya. Yeah, because a lot of us put up with a lot of things that are, abuse, because they hear this thing, turn the other cheek, and they think that means to subject yourself to abuse. And it doesn't mean to subject yourself to abuse, right, Bronya? That doesn't mean, yeah. Just because we turn the other cheek doesn't mean we also dust our feet off. You know what I mean? So, a lot of things can be taken different ways. So the shift is once you've realized these stages, and I'll just say the stages once again, and then we'll go on to the next part. So stage one is the hints and emotional manipulation and guilt manipulation. Stage two is victim language. Stage three is emotional pressure. And stage four is emotional escalation. So it keeps escalating, is what it does, because we don't end up with these things because it started out that way. And that's what we end up chasing. But here's the shift. Here's the shift. We're going to get along great, Bronya. Silly. Okay. Midtown Medical Transport. No one said that tattoos is anything Midtown Medical. Tattoos doesn't matter. God don't care if somebody has tattoos. Bronya, I'm pagan and I had a Christian girlfriend and she was abusive and manipulate me for my religion, right? That's why on here we don't talk about religion, because the thing is we respect all people's walks and faiths. It doesn't matter, because you know we can be good people. There can be good people that don't have no religion at all, and like Brunya's saying, there's some people who are caught up in religion and abusing people. So that's why we don't talk about that here, because that could be a trigger too. So the shift is, this is where healing begins. Instead of reacting, we pause. That's what, we do the breathing at the end of all these videos, because the breathing helps us get centered in the present moment and not from past reactions, so that we can respond in the present. So instead of reacting, we pause, we become curious. We ask ourselves, what is really happening here? What is really happening here? Because sometimes this tonality, I talked about tonality this morning, is somebody may not be saying something mean to us, but it may trigger us from something we heard in the past. Or sometimes people can be saying something mean and we take it as unearned guilt that we did something wrong. So this is why we need to pause and check with ourselves. Brenya, because she also didn't like that I'm trans. She didn't know I was trans, and I was scared to tell her because of her religion, right? That's not our business, is it? That's why we don't talk about that on here, because I don't care if somebody's trans or what. I think God loves everybody. And so we don't, that's why racism is ungodly and unholy. Well, I agree with that. I'm not a racist. Because people got tattoos don't mean they're racist. A lot of people who don't have tattoos are racist. So ask yourself what's really happening here. What are you really needing right now? What do you need right now? And what are you asking for? Can you tell me directly? What is it that you really need? See, we need to learn, but this is why sometimes we think I'm attracting these people, but sometimes when we relate differently, this is why I do the self-esteem vocabulary on Facebook on Monday mornings, and we focus on that for the week, because a lot of times we do need to learn the language of what we want, because maybe we didn't learn the language of what we want sometimes. So I had to learn that in karate. Are you on here to argue this morning, Midtown Medical Transport? Because I'm trying to stay on topic. And I just said that we have to stay on topic. So I'm going now to a better way to communicate. Okay, wait a minute. I forgot this part. This is why I have notes. So when we ask somebody, can you tell me directly? Healthy relationships can handle direct questions. Manipulative dynamics depend on mind reading, that somebody's supposed to read your mind. And this is really our infantile self wanting somebody to take care of us, and a lot of times people do want that. When you live with uncertainty, you want security, and that may look like somebody taking care of you and being able to whisk you away and read your mind and just know what you need more so than you do. I know that for me at one time in my life, I wanted that, but that's how I ended up giving my power away, you know? I know a lot of people have tattoos. Brunya, God, I'm First Nations, and I love white people. I help all races, religions, sexualities, and etc. Thank you, Brunya, because we are all meant to be here. We wouldn't be here if we weren't all meant to be here. Thank you, Brunya. So, a better way to communicate, for us to learn how to communicate our wants, needs, and desires is instead of saying, I guess we always do what you want. When I'm working with people who are single and who do want a relationship, I always encourage them to take themselves out on a date. Take themselves out on dates, find out what they like and what they don't like. Because here's where we give our power away, like I just said, is when we don't know what we want and we just let people tell us what, and this is why we end up frustrated in the end. This is why I ended up frustrated in the end, is I'm always doing what somebody else wanted, but I didn't know what I wanted, but I knew that, you're in Australia, Norwegian by heritage, but born in Australia by our Aboriginal family. That is so cool. Robbie here is in Australia. So we every once in a while, one night we had 4 people in here from Australia. So that is so cool. So instead of saying, I guess we always do what you want, try saying, I'd really like to choose what we do this weekend. Would you be willing to let me plan our date? So sometimes when people do get in relationships, what I learned is there's this thing that you can create called a date book. And in this book, each person writes out what they want to do on a date. And so maybe one week you do what one person wants to do. And this book is kind of fun because it can also, put your wants, needs, and desires down until you feel comfortable saying it. You know, my great nan was a Romani gypsy. Very cool. Yeah, that is cool, Don. So I just love this community. Y'all are great. So instead of saying, after everything I've done for you, because some people learn this language, their parents, and their parents said it, so then they're saying it too. After everything I've done for you, try saying, I'm feeling unappreciated. And I'd like to talk about how we can both feel more valued. Now, I do want to say in this evolution of life that things have changed with the way that things go, and it's not bad. See, this is the problem, that there's a disconnect and miscommunication and a lot of fieriness between the younger people and the older people, is that a lot of, in this communication here, a lot of people were taught to manipulate the younger people. But the younger people really are teaching me things like we have our own lives. We are our own people. We are not meant to have to do what other people tell us to do. We're not meant to be manipulated. We're not meant to feel obligated. We're meant to do things from love, not from that sense of obligation. But a lot of people, that was a learned behavior. So this is why people are subject to be manipulated. Mm. Okay, I think Midtown Medical Transport's just wanting to argue because no one's ever said any of that, and I'm not arguing with Midtown Medical Transport. We said totally the opposite, and so Midtown Medical Transport has another dialogue than what we're talking about. Okay. Good morning, JR. I'm glad you're here. All right, I've had enough of this. All right. All right, y'all. Better now. We can finish this on topic. All right. So here we go. Instead of saying, if you loved me, try saying, when this happened, I felt hurt. Can we talk about it? I know, Rodolfo. I couldn't do it no more. So try saying, when this happened, I felt hurt. Can we talk about it? We dealt with a lot. We dealt with a lot before we put them out. Because we like tolerance here, but yeah. Yeah, it was. They were on here to argue. They weren't on here to stay on topic. So, um, do you hear, when we say, when this happened, instead of saying, if you loved me, then, it's said to say, when this happened, I felt hurt. Can we talk about it? Because sometimes what the problem is when we have these unhealed wounds, sometimes we expect or want somebody else to fix it. But if they, there's that saying, if don't bleed on somebody who didn't cut you, is we have to fix it ourselves. So that's the thing, is we have to heal our pain ourselves. It's good to have support, people to encourage us, but it's our pain. See, this is where a lot of the parents, and myself included, make the we didn't know it was we didn't know because we didn't have YouTube, we didn't have Google, we didn't have a lot of the resources we have today. But when we're trying to heal our children from our wounds, they may resent that because it wasn't their wounds. So the first seeks control in that statement. If you loved me, that seeks control. But the second seeks connection. When this happened, I felt hurt. Can we talk about it? So the 4 ways people respond to unmet needs. When people have unmet needs, they usually respond in one of 4 ways. 1, they ask, and this is healthy. This is the healthy response to unmet needs. Because sometimes people don't know what you want. They don't know. There's no way they should know. So to ask healthy is to say, I need, I would like, would you be willing? That's healthy communication. Number 2 is indirect communication. I guess it must be nice. Never mind. We all know we get annoyed when people tell us something and go, never mind. That's a great annoyer, isn't it? So that's indirect communication, because we're wanting to talk. We want to say something. We want attention, but we don't know whether it's right or wrong, right? And so we're trying to gauge that. So 3 is they manipulate. So manipulation sounds like it sounds and feels like guilt, shame, withdrawal, sulking, victim language, criticism, anger, emotional pressure. And these are attempts to influence behavior without making a direct request. So this is what I call passive aggressive. Passive aggressive. I'm so glad Brenda and Robbie, I'm glad y'all are able to connect. This is what I love about this community, is that, we're all in front of this phone or this computer, but yet we're all so divinely connected, and I love this. So it's amazing. So 4 is that people in emotional maturity. See, we have these inner children, and our inner children sometimes have that emotional immaturity, and a lot of us are trying to hide that. But we can't save our face and our behind at the same time. So when I have felt these different ways, I had a coach or a counselor or a therapist or somebody that I could express these things to, so that we could process it before I go exploding on somebody else. You know what I mean? So taking responsibility means to process these things. The biggest thing my abuser would say would be, should you be doing that? Or seriously, you're eating again? I know. They're always micromanaging, right, Branya? They micromanage. We talked about that on Monday night. I mean, when did we talk? Monday night we talked about that. So 4 is taking responsibility, emotional maturity. And this is after we process it, because most of the time, if we would have known better, we would have done better. Or, if they would have known better, they would have done better. Some people are willing to work on it. When it says, are you willing? That's the healthy language. Are you willing to work on this? If they're trying to blame you, well, they're not willing to work on it. So taking responsibility and emotional maturity means I didn't communicate clearly. I own my part. I'd like to try again. I respect your answer, even if it's no. And this is emotional maturity. That's what emotional maturity sounds like. So I'm going to say that again. I didn't communicate clearly. I own my part. I'd like to try again. Because if somebody gets in a shouting match, I don't believe that adults need to be shouting at another adults unless they're telling them to get out of the way, not to get hit by a car. But other than that, I don't believe adults need to be shouting at other adults. But sometimes people do lose their tempers and shout. But I do believe not to use verbal abuse, because I'm sure Branya experienced the verbal abuse. And what that means is that I like the example of that is when people put a nail into a board. And even though you take the nail out, like apologize, and if you say, I'm sorry, you take the nail out, but the hole is still there. So this is why amends is important, because that's the change of behavior. You can't just apologize for something and say, I'm sorry over and over and over, because that's empty. Amends is when you amend the behavior that caused the apology. So that's taking responsibility, because sometimes we are human. We will make mistakes, and we can say, I didn't communicate clearly. I own my part. I'd like to try again. I respect your answer, even if it's no. So that sometimes people are afraid to say no. Brenya, yeah, but then they would want to go to McDonald's and get a giant Big Mac meal, even though they were over 100 kilograms. Now that I know, and I'm an addict, an alcoholic, and a lot of times people think that we're just getting over these things. And I deal, with addiction, and it's not just alcohol and drugs. There is food addiction, there is drug addiction, alcohol addiction, there is addiction to chaos. There's even addiction to control. Some people are addicted to control. There's addiction to shopping. There's addiction to so many different things. There's a transference of addiction, because if we don't look at the inner problem, we're going to seek outer relief somewhere. Nicotine. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. Learning self-esteem. That's the goal, right? So we're almost done, y'all. I want to thank y'all so much. We're doing great. We've stayed on topic. Yes, give yourself some hearts. So the goal is an alcohol, but I was a happy drunk, and that's why I would do it. Yeah, Brunion, I was happy for a while. Then I got into blackouts, and it's like I just celebrated 29 years clean and sober. Thank you, Shalasharan. We will pray for your husband and children and your career growth. Amy, no. If you're addicted to alcohol, what? I'm addicted to alcohol, but I don't drink. I haven't drank in 29 years. I don't need to drink alcohol. I learned a new way of life, and I like it. I like waking up knowing what's up. So the goal is self-esteem. Self-esteem isn't just learning to say no. It's learning to ask honestly for what you need without making someone else feel responsible for your emotions. Healthy relationships don't require mind reading. They require honest communication. Instead of this pattern, need, hint, guilt, compliance. Practice this pattern instead. Need, awareness, honest request, and respect for the answer. That's emotional maturity. And that's healthy communication, and that's healing. Brunya. To feel happy. Yeah. Thank you so much, Don. 29 years. I'm excited. Okay, Mama. Beautiful Mama. You have a good day. Robbie. We're addicted to good living now. Yes, we are, Robbie. Yes, we are. Brunya, congrats, love. I've been clean for a year, but have one beer once or twice a month when I'm going to watch the game with the blokes. That's cool. Not everybody who drinks is addicted. Not everybody who smokes weed is addicted. Not everybody, it's just if we use it to cope, And so for me, I don't even want to test myself, because I would start off with weed, and then I would switch. I would get thirsty. Then I would have to have some alcohol. And then I would really get buzzed. Then I would get tired. And then I would have to have something to go in my nose or down my throat to keep me stimulated. And then I would pass out. And it just wasn't, it was the same thing. It was a hamster wheel. So in closing, manipulation thrives in confusion, and self-esteem grows in clarity. Guilt asks, who's responsible? Self-esteem asks, what's actually mine? Healing doesn't happen by taking responsibility for everything. Healing happens by taking responsibility exactly for what belongs to you and allowing others to do the same. Healthy love always leaves room for choice, because we're not trying to suffocate people. We're not trying to micromanage people in healthy love, and we're not trying to be suffocated or micromanaged. We're trying to have a mutual connection that is what we want, not creating from need or obligation, but what do I want? So we're learning to re-navigate and be able to say what we want and own that. Relationships built on clarity create trust. And trust is where love grows. So how y'all like that? Would y'all feel this was helpful? This is this. I'll be back on here Friday night and we'll finish this up and then talk about it again on Sunday. Brunya, I was heavy drink a year ago, but now I finally don't get the withdrawals after one or two. That's very good, Brunya. That's amazing. I'm so glad that you and Robbie got to connect here today, and I'm so glad that we all got to connect. I'm glad Pam got to be here today, and anyone else who's here. I'm so glad that we got to see Don and John London and JR and Rodolfo. And am I missing anybody? Mama, of course. So anyway, I thank you all for being here this morning. Now, this is the part where we get into the breathing. Yes, it is. It's amazing. Okay, let me look at the comments before we start breathing. Hey, Mo. What do I like to do now? I like to live my life to the fullest. I like to experience things, and I experience things naturally. And so I meditate and I breathe and I get to go see. I like to enjoy other people getting to make milestones and accomplishments in their lives. And I like to make milestones and accomplishments in my life. I like connecting with people. I used to be so afraid of people when I was in my addiction. I was afraid of what people might think of me. I was hiding things all the time. And now I don't really hide that much. I have my privacy, but I'm not secretive. And there's a difference between that. Mohawk, you people have attacked my. Okay, I don't know who you are, and I don't know what you're talking about. Amy, no. Show us the fit in 360. Okay, I'm about to stand up and show y'all. Very helpful, deep topic. I feel this one would help all people. Thank you, John. If you want to share it, feel free. I appreciate it. JR, I got in late, so sorry. It's okay. You can. Greg, there's Greg too. Greg's down under also, right? Greg's down in Aussie. So John London, you are very welcome. Brunya, stop it, Mo. Robbie, Brunya, anything we use as a dessert, not main course, we're doing good. Yep. Amy, no. Are you going to show the outfit before you get off the stream? I have a feeling Mo is. Yeah, I know. You're right, Brunya. I think so too. So the outfit today. Here we go. So that's me. There's the outfit. No. Amy, no. Everybody, that's the outfit. I'm going out with my friend Sarai today. It's my day off. We're going to get stuff done. Get stuff done today. And that's what I like to do too. It's my thought. This is my thought. And I listen to spiritual things, not religious things. My thought is that we all have we all have an amount of masculine and feminine energy in us. There's one that predominates, sometimes. Be right back. You're going to do a small check to see if Mo is a brand new account. Okay, thank you, Bronya. You're so smart. With all respect, Professor John London. Thank you so much, John London. I'm going out to Cancun today. It's going to be fun hanging out with my Sarai's one of my besties. There's 3 of us. We're like the hocus pocus, girls. And so we all got our own quirky little personalities and everything else. So I'm waiting for Brunya to get back so we can breathe. And then we're going to breathe. When we breathe, y'all know that that's our regeneration and regulation. So the breathing puts us into the present moment. And when we talk about the pause in this today, Grinch, welcome to the Grinch fan club. Welcome to the Grinch fan club. Thank you for checking that, Brunya. So, Amy, my feet are out. I'll put shoes on in a minute. But Grinch was ready to breathe, y'all. Assume in position. So this is the Grinch fan club featuring Stacy, the mindset coach. We will have a lovely day, John London. So we are ready to breathe, Brunya, now that you're back. So we're going to do 5 breaths. And this is just so I encourage my clients to try, to do this, especially when we get stressed or anything like that. But it's good just to practice for presence, to be present, And I just stop and I breathe sometimes. And I look at the sky and look at the trees and just look around me at all this magnificence, So anyway, so we're going to do the breathing now. Grinch is ready. Grinch is in position. Brenda, he was someone who was talking exactly like you, Mo. So I had to check if it was the same person that Stacy had to ban before. I know, right? We're gonna breathe. Yes, I look forward to seeing y'all on Friday night, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Okay. All right. So we're going to breathe, darlings. Let's breathe. So we're going to take a deep breath in, fill up our stomach. Our shoulders will rise. We're letting the air pass through here, open our heart and down into our stomach, and then holding it for 4 counts if you can. But if you can't hold it for 4 counts, don't worry. Just do the best you can. Okay, Rodolfo, I'm glad you got to come back in. And we'll see you later, Friday night. And so then we hold it for 4 counts and then we release gently and slowly, because we all want to be handled gently and slowly, or we don't need to be racing through life. This calms your central nervous system. So Grinch is ready. We're ready. Let's go. Here we grow. Take a deep breath in, breathing in trust and peace and freedom. Hold it. Releasing any guilt, any shame, and any fear. Breathe. Hold it. And release. Breathe. Hold it. Release. Two more. Breathe in. Hold it. And release. Last one. Breathe. Hold it. And release. Woo! I know Grinch flies around the house sometimes, but yeah. He's Grinch. Grinchy. Thank you so much, Brenya. I appreciate you being here today. I appreciate you all being here today. Good night, Robbie. I hope you'll have a blessed and regenerated rest. All right. I look forward to seeing y'all Friday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you haven't subscribed, if you enjoyed this, please subscribe. If you feel like it will help somebody else, please feel free to share. And I just want to thank you so much for all of you who have subscribed and are subscribing. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you so much, Freyo. Brenya. Good night. Good night, Brenya. Y'all have a good evening. And for y'all starting your day, y'all have an amazing day. All right. Thanks, John London. All right. Good night, y'all. And I'm glad you got to join us, Freyo. Thank you. All right. Have a good one. See y'all Friday. Bye.